Good morning, students. Welcome back to my sociology class. Students, today I'm going to discuss about some important questions from the chapter Change and Development in Industrial Society. The questions are, I will show you the questions I have written. How has liberalization attacked employment pattern in India? We have to know the answer about the questions because these questions is very important from the chapter Change and Development in Industrial Society. So I am requesting to all of you, students, please listen the answer from me and try to write down from yourself. The answer is you can write it point wise. First point is, due to liberalization, foreign products are now easily available in Indian markets and shops. Okay. Due to this, some of labor have to lose their employment and their jobs. Second, many Indian companies have been taken over by multinationals, right? At the same time, some Indian companies are becoming multinational companies. An instance of the first is when, as a result, that the companies, Indian companies becoming the multinational companies and the multinational companies capturing the Indian companies. Okay, for example, Parle drinks was brought by Coca-Cola. Okay, only for example. Next point, the next major area of liberalization may be in retail. Due to coming of foreign companies and the big business or the big business groups, Indian houses like the very small houses, very small traders, shopkeepers, handicap sellers and the hawkers have lost their job of employment, or their small business is adversely affected by big small showroom like Reliance, like TCS, like ITCs, etc. The world largest chains, including the Walmart stores and the other stores, are seeking the best way to enter the country, despite a government ban on foreign direct investment in market. So, like this multinational companies like the Walmart and the others companies set up a retailing joint venture. India's retail sector is attractive not only because of its fast growth, but because family run street corner stores have 27% of the nation's business. But this industry trait is precisely why the government make it hard for foreigner to enter the market. The government is trying to sell its share in several public sector companies, a process which is known as disinvestment. Many government workers are scared that after disinvestment they will lose their jobs. Next, companies are reducing the number of permanent employees and outsourcing their work to smaller companies or even to homes. For multinational companies, this outsourcing is done across the globe, with developing countries like India providing cheap labor. It is more difficult for trade unions to organize in smaller firms because trade unions are mainly organized with the organized sector, means the big companies, big industries. But those who are the small scale worker, it's not possible for the trade union to give some rules and regulations or benefits from the management or from the higher authorities. That's all about the question answer. And my second question is, difference between organized and the unorganized sector. Difference between organized and unorganized sector. Students, the answer is sectors are majorly divided into three categories: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Based on the employment condition, these are further classified as an organized and unorganized sector. The organized sector is one that is incorporated with the appropriate authority or government and follow its rules and regulations. On the contrary, the unorganized sector can be understood as the sector which is not incorporated with the government and thus no rules are required to be followed. Okay. So now we can say that organized sector is related to business, government related work, industry involving large scale operations. The unorganized sector include small scale operations, small business, private business. There is a slight difference between organized and unorganized sector, but if we see the difference is huge. Actually, the organized sector in which the employment terms are fixed and employees have assured work in organized sector. But on the other hand, the unorganized sector that comprises of small scale enterprise or units and are not registered with the government. It's a problem for unorganized sector. Various acts, government acts like the Factories Act, Bonus Act, PF Act, Minimum Wage Act, etc. are applicable for the organized sector, but on the other hand, not governed by any act. Workers are paid remunerations for overtime, but in the unorganized sector, no provision for overtime. All the rules and regulations are prescribed by the government. It's for organized sector. But on the other hand, the unorganized sector less than the salary prescribed by the government. So employees get add-on benefits like the medical facilities, sometimes pensions, leave travels, compensation. All these facilities are for the organized sector, but unorganized sector not provided that kinds of facilities. So this is the difference between the organized sector and the unorganized sector. So as a conclusion, we can say that the organized sector includes those factories, enterprises, industries, schools, hospitals, and the units which are registered with the government. It also includes shops, clinic, and offices that possesses a formal license. On the other hand, unorganized sector, constructions worker, domestic workers, worker working on the street, people working in the small workshops, very small factories, not affiliated with the government, the low unemployment in organized sector as compared to the unorganized sector. So that's all about the difference between the organized and the unorganized sector. So students, our next question is, just have a look. How has liberalization affected employment pattern in India? How has liberalization pattern affected employment pattern in India? Okay. If you want, you can write the questions. Now the answer is, actually employment scenario we have already learned it. Liberalization obviously affected the employment pattern in India. First things, you can write that the government has followed the policy of liberalization since 1990s. Accordingly, private companies and the foreign firms are encouraged to invest in sectors earlier reserved for the government. Second things, due to liberalization, many Indian companies have been brought over by multinationals. However, at the same time, many Indian companies are becoming multinational companies. Under the process of disinvestment, the government is trying to sell its share in many public sector companies. The workers to these companies are scared that their disinvestment, I already told that disinvestment, they may lose their jobs. The Modern Foods was the first company to be privatized. 60% of the workers were forced to retire in the first 5 years. Nowadays, we are using lots of foods item that is coming from the multinational companies like the Lay's. We are very related with it. It's a multinational companies. So due to worldwide process of liberalization, more and more companies are reducing the number of permanent employees and outsourcing their work to smaller companies. Divisions of labor are increasing. Consequently, the secure employment in large industry is declining. So students, I hope you understood that the liberalization affected employment pattern in India. Now, the more worker is or the employment scenario is the temporary, means the contractual. Permanent concepts day by day it's reducing and the wages are dependent on the work, not everyday routine. Okay, understood students? That's all about the effect of liberalization on employment. Next question is, my next question is, discuss working conditions of employees in India. Discuss working conditions of employees in India. Working conditions of employees in India. In India, students listen carefully. Generally, the working conditions are very bad because we have lots of different types of industries in India. No doubt, the government has passed a number of laws and regulations to regulate working conditions. Laws are not observed by big companies, and subcontractors do not maintain proper register of works, thus avoiding responsibility for accidents, suppose in the mine industry, and the benefits in all factories, mills, and mines. After mining, such as in the coal mining region, has finished in an area, the company is supposed to cover up the open holes and restore the area to its earlier conditions. But they do not do this. Employees and workers in underground mine face very dangerous conditions due to flooding, due to fire, the collapse of the roofs and the sides wall, the emission of gases and ventilation failures. All these are the life-threatening problem for the workers. Several workers develop breathing problems and disease like the tuberculosis and different types of heart problems, eye vision problems, etc. Those working in overground mine have to work in both hot sun and the rain. They have to work both the hot sun and the rain side by side, face different types of injuries due to mine blasting, falling objects, etc. In fact, the rate of mining accidents in India is very high as compared to the other countries. So these are the main problems for the mining workers. Without the mining factories, there are lots of factories we have, including the small scale factories. The problems of the employees are they are not getting their wages at right time, or sometimes they are getting the wages very minimum actually they have. So these are the employees problems uh, in Indian industry. The working conditions of the employees are very poor. Basically, the minings and the people engaged in industry like the iron industry, coal industry, etc. Okay. My next question is how people find jobs. How people find jobs. People go through job advertisements. It's a common answer from everyone. Okay. People go through job advertisement given in different newspapers and journals. They got themselves registered in employment exchange also to know about the job opportunities. But only a small percentage of people get jobs through advertisement or through the employment exchange. Because India is a huge populated country, very small portions of people are getting job through the uses of the advertisement or through the employment exchange. People employ themselves also. There are different types of workers who are self-employed, such as plumbers, such as electricians, such as carpenters, tailors, at one end, and teachers who get private tuitions, architects, and the freelance photographers. At the other end, all rely on personal contract. They are dependent on the personal contract. They hope that their work of good quality will an advertisement for them. Nowadays, we are living a globalized world. So, ICT means the information communication technology helps us through telephones and mobile phones. It made life much easier for plumbers and the other who can work cater to one circle of people. Job recruitment as a factory worker takes a different pattern. In the past, several workers got their jobs through contractors or the jobbers. For example, in the Kanpur textile mill, these jobbers were known as the mistris and were themselves workers. They came from the same regions and communities as the workers. There are certain workers who work on contract basis even in the organized sector. They are not given the status of regular and permanent worker or laborer. Their contract system is most visible in the hiring of casual labor for work on construction site. Basically, you can see that in the construction site, every day the contractors hired lots of workers for day wise for the work like the brick yard and the construction site and so on. So the contractors go to villages and ask if people want to work. He loaned them some money. This loan includes the cost of the transport of the work site. The loan money is treated as an advance wage and the worker work without wages until the loan is repaid. So now I hope students you understood the work scenario in India. In industrial India is very poor. Still now, yes, of course we have organized sector and side by side the unorganized sector, but the unorganized sectors area and the coverage is very high rather than the organized sector. So people's working conditions still is very poor in level. So students, I hope you understood all the answers of the questions. So I'm requesting to everyone, please write down the answer in your classwork copy. Thank you. That's all for today.